I'm here in Honolulu, Hawaii, and we're doing a Zoom call with Harley, and he's at home. And how's the weather over there?
Yeah, it's pretty nice. Yeah, water's still really warm. Pretty humid. We've had lots of rain lately, but yeah, I'm kind of itching. Like we're well into autumn now, and it hasn't really got those cool, crisp mornings haven't kicked in yet. So I'm hanging for that to get lots of good offshores and stuff. But we've had plenty of surf. That east swells has been non-stop, so it's been good.
Yeah, your recent video. What size mid six were you riding?
7.0, the 7.0. Yeah.
Is that what you
Yeah.
mostly ride?
Yeah, mostly. Yeah, I ride the 710 a bit as well, but I really like the 710 for those sort of like double overhead, open face days where you just want to carve and go fast and stuff like that. The 710 will work in smaller stuff as well, but for me, that's when it's at its pinnacle in my quiver for me. But yeah, most of the time in those shorter, bowlier waves, the 7.0 just fits the pocket and can still chase peaks along the beach really well on it. And yeah, it's a little weapon.
Yeah. So earlier we were talking about the Mo, and you said that the rocker is pretty much the same, except the last couple inches of the nose.
Yeah. So the mid six, we pretty much, we based it off the Mo's bottom and rocker. It's very much built off the same thing. Obviously, the major things, the plan shape change. Put the channels between the feet rather than the double concave. And then just in the last foot or two, we just pulled the nose up a touch. But yeah, other than that, it's just the way the rails are and the whole bottom and everything. It's just all based off this one mid-length file that Billy's had for a really long time. It's just such a trusty board.
Yeah. So the channels, what does that do to the board?
Makes it look good. No,
It does look good
no,
for sure.
No, they just feel really, really good. They do the same thing, similar thing to what concaves do. When you push hard, it just gives you that extra grip and just accelerates you out of a turn. And I hadn't really been able to convince Bill to make me channel bottoms until we decided to do this board. He'd always just like, there's no way I'm dealing with sanding those and all the rest of it. So yeah, it was great to finally get them, and it was kind of like the perfect shape board to put channels in. And to do a true 6 channel was pretty awesome. And yeah, just the way Billy put them into, we didn't want to cut them in too deep. You see those really deep ones, and you'd obviously get the feeling of what a channel does in those a lot easier. But the flip side is they can get stuck in a track and harder to break, and maybe not so good in transition. So yeah, we just wanted to get them in there deep enough that when you're pushing hard in good waves, you can get that grip and acceleration feeling. But then when you weight off, they're not dominant, and that's why the middle channels, you'll notice, don't actually run out through the pod. It goes back to flat. We wanted to leave that so the very back of the board was still neutral. And yeah, it's just they work really well, and just when you get to feel them in a good bowl or a good bottom turn, they're a nice feeling thing for sure.
So on waves that are a little bit more that stand up more and barrel versus waves that have an open face, what type of fin are you using? What fins are you using? Are you using the same fins for both type of riding?
Yeah. I pretty much have just been riding large reactors in this with the reactor medium rears, or I've got some old favorite performer medium quad rears that I put in it a lot as well. And yeah, whether it's turns, like I ride the mid 6 down in waist high, chest high waves quite a lot as well. And yeah, I don't really mix up the fins. It's the same as my longboards. I have the fins that I like, and I know where they put them, and they just work in everything. I do play around with 2+1 in it sometimes. If I didn't have the Mo in the car or something, I'm like, oh, it looks, a little bit weaker, and I just want it to be ultra loose. Like I've been playing around with the Power Twins, and like an extra small, like a Grom size center fin, and that's quite fun. But yeah, most of the time, even in small stuff, like again, I just run the quads nearly all the time.
Yeah, I love the 2+1s. Those Power Twins are good fins.
Yeah, the Power Twins, a fin I designed for FCS quite a few years ago when I designed the my asymmetric, which isn't in production at the moment. It was a board we were doing in Japan, and we did quite a few years ago when I designed the my asymmetric, which isn't in production at the moment. It was a board we were doing in Japan, and we did a few here in Australia for a little while. And yeah, I just wanted to design a twin fin. So I did that from the ground up for FCS, and it was, it's a really trusty fin also. It's a fin I use a lot in my short boards and fun boards and stuff like that.
Have you ever used the Power Twins with some small trailers as a quad?
No, I should try that. I've never done that. I've always, like, I've got some dedicated twin fins. Like I've got an old BP twin here, the custom kind of thing, and I don't even have a center box. Like I just find if I'm riding a twin fin, I just ride a twin fin. Just put the twins in and go. I really do feel if you put a trailer in, I can feel that little, even if it's a super small one, I can feel that little bit of drag, and it's never enough fin there to really push off and generate more speed or anything. So for me, it's just that little bit of speed loss. I'm like, don't worry about it in my proper twin fins. But with the mid 6, because the fins are further up the board in a normal fin placement, even with the Power Twins having a bigger base, I find I do want to stabilize it just to balance how far up the board the fins are. That's kind of the only time I would throw a stabilizer in personally. But I know a lot of people like the 2+1. It's I really should play with the 2+2. I've just haven't done it yet.
Yeah,
I'll probably never go to the single one ever again if I do. I'm sure. I love quads.
Yeah, that's how I ride the because I'm not able to step on the tail like you on the 7.0 because I'm riding a little bit smaller board, and you have that, you're really good at it, and so I put it as a 2+1 so I can still move it around. But yeah, I love it that way. So do you ever go as a thruster on this?
I have a little bit. I hadn't ridden it as a thruster at all until I saw Kevin Schultz's clip when he posted his. I'm like, all right, geez, I really should try this.
he kind of threw up a challenge too. He goes, "Hey, Harley."
Exactly. So, and I have done it since. So I went on a little spate of riding as a thruster then when Kevin posted that clip. But and then recently I've just been making some like standard shortboards, thrusters and stuff, and I've been riding thrusters for a couple of weeks, and I was like, oh, it's a mid 6 day today, and so I threw the thrusters in because I've been riding thrusters a lot. I was like, all right, so I haven't been riding quads and whatever else, so I'm pretty in tune with the way that feels, and I had some really incredible surf on it, just with the large reactor tri-set, thruster set, and it works. I just find you just get that little bit more speed out of the quad. You can push that little bit harder in a turn. And similar to shortboards, the only time I think the thrusters got the little edge is if you're punching through the lip, trying to get that little bit of easier release, and stuff like that. That's for me, that's when thrusters outperform a quad. But for everything on the face, for me, quads win.
So are you drawing pretty much the same lines when you're surfing a quad versus a thruster?
Yeah, pretty much. Like I said, the only thing I'd be probably trying, if I'm put the thruster in, I'll probably try and release the turn, like release the fin a little bit more out of like a carve or out of the lip. I'll be trying to probably throw it a little harder, like Kevin was out of the lip on it. But that's kind of the only thing I would change. But generally, I'd say mine would be pretty much the same. It's just the way I surf.
So the thruster fins, what type of fins do you have on there?
I pretty much have been riding the large reactors. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's just, yeah, it's a really good template, and I particularly like the foil of the reactors. It's just a really good foil. For me, they generate speed well. People think of it as a pivot fin and being like super loose, but if you actually like stack it up against a lot of other fins, because the base goes straight up, doesn't like cut in as much. There's like the effective base that you're driving off. There's actually a lot more fin there than a lot of other fins in the range. And then, yeah, being a little bit not super raky and a long tip, that you can break them out of turns. And because you're on a long rail board and all the rest of it, you don't need that length of turn out of the fin. You're kind of getting it out of the board. So, yeah, for me, they're just a really good balance to this board. And I use them in short boards too. They're just a good fin.
So the boards, so like this one right here, the mid 6, they're made to flex and twist in certain places. What's the advantage of that?
Now we think of normal boards like stringed standard surfboards. You know, you've got the stiff part down the middle, and all the edges are, you know, softer, obviously. And you know, they naturally twist and things, but you're sort of just stuck with the way it is, you know. But with the Thunderbolts, obviously we did so much different testing of where to laminate up the internal structure and things, and yeah, through all the testing, it was funny. Like the very first time I went to Japan with Thunderbolt, I met CJ over there, and we did a bunch of blind testing, and just it was just all plain white boards with the structure inside, different structures. And CJ and I, our first pick was the same one, so we kind of validated an internal structure that, you know, we both really liked straight away. So it was like a good foundation. And then other than that, just the thickness of the strips and things I've slightly tweaked over the years, and things. But yeah, all in all, like, yeah, we came, you know, Thunderbolt, you know, he's got such a lineage from his father building, you know, Olympic level sailboards and stuff since the 70s, doing constructions like this with carbon fiber and things. So they really knew how to make boards strong and light, and just, you know, all the pitfalls of things that can happen with building these types of boards. That, you know, that sort of lessons had been learned a long time ago. So yeah, it was a pretty, didn't take very much time to come up with something we were super happy with, because of just, yeah, how much knowledge he already had.
So each model, do you guys fine tune where it twists and flexes and all that stuff too?
A little bit. Yeah, like say I did a lot of that in the earlier days with, say, the HIHPs, because they were more going to be for better waves. The strips are a little wider, and they're a thin board too, so it was going to flex a lot easier. So we could bolster up the strips a little for that. And then say the Cruiser or the Diamond Drive, which was more smaller wave, we wanted that, you know, because it wasn't going to be ridden in as big a waves more often than not. I could narrow the A-beam and B-beam, and even the top of the T-stringer, make it not so wide, so the board had a little easier flex. We've more standardized everything now a little bit. But yeah, I was well down the rabbit hole of playing with all kinds of things there for a long time.
Well, that's good, because on a normal board, you really couldn't, you really can't fine tune the flex like that. And this is probably one of the few boards in the world, like the production, that you can actually do that.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And I mean, like, before pre-Thunderbolt, like, that's all Billy and I would do. Like, we sort of had designs that we loved, and the hardest thing was, like, how do we get more out of the boards, you know, out of the blanks and things. And like PU for us was really inconsistent. We never found that to be a good, you know, just the difference in, and it's not to do with necessarily the blank companies being inconsistent, but just every time you get a new piece of timber, you know, the new stringer, there was differences in that. And you really feel it in long boards, probably more so than a 6 foot short board. So yeah, for us, the consistency was in stringed epoxies, and not using ply stringers, like one piece of timber, like whitewood or like cedar stringers, things like that, where it's just one piece of timber. That was kind of where we were getting our most success and the best performance out of. but they were just not strong enough. You know, you either had to put 3 layers of glass on top and 2 on the bottom for it to handle good waves, and then it would be too heavy to like sort of throw around the way I wanted to surf, or you get a light one and you're sort of nursing it.
Yeah. So
yeah,
these Thunderbolts, when you're, so that's, I mean, for pretty good, that's for solid waves right there. When you're riding it, does it handle the wind and chop pretty good?
really good. Yeah. So for light boards, yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of people think boards have to be heavy for good sized waves, but I mean, it definitely, in some circumstances, that can be a benefit. And I'm not talking about like ridiculously oversized waves, but I'll ride my regular production weight HIHP and 4 times overhead surf, no problem. And you know, especially the carbon lamination, they just cut through the chop, and it doesn't matter if it's windy or whatever. They just, the way they've made the flex pattern. And again, this goes back to like Thunderbolt's knowledge from sailboard days. They're building boards to go through, you know, go crazy speeds and across not very nice water. And they weren't building boards heavy to cut through that. They were building them as light and stiff and stuff as they could, I think. And stuff. So yeah, the knowledge was there how to make light boards behave well in bumpy or windy conditions. Obviously, you know, big noses and big boards, if there's a lot of wind, you're more fighting the fact that you've got a lot of surface area catching wind so much than the way the board's actually behaving on the wet water surface. But yeah, everything has pros and cons. But yeah, for me, it's like these boards get me through pretty much all conditions.
Yeah. I've ridden a 7.0 and we have a demo 7.0 and a 7.6. I took the 7.0 out on a small day. It was only like maybe waist to chest high, and it paddles really good into the wave, and it's fun. It's a good board. I mean, yeah,
I think like people think of it as only because of the narrow pin tail and stuff. It's only a good wave board, but you know, I ride this board in, you know, waist high surf, and it goes great. Like not having, like I said, just not too much tail rocker, and it's just well balanced. It's just it gets up and goes. It's quick board.
Right on. Thank you very much.
Yeah, easy, man.